Okay, I'm ready. Becoming.
Trials and errors make us strong if we learn how to just move on and not give in. When we fall, falling down and getting up, when we will not be stuck in the places where we fall. We must see that there's so much to be. Keep on living through the trials we will see. Becoming who we'll be, it's not that hard if we can see. We've got to keep growing and not get stuck. Becoming you and me, we will become who we will be. Hold on and not give up. We'll keep becoming. Oh, yeah. When we fall down, we must get up. We cannot get stuck in a rut, for then we'll see it's really not that bad. Many times we find ourselves caught up in all kinds of mess, and that's the plan that we'll give up. Oh, but we must see that there's so much to be. Keep on living through the trials we will see. Becoming who we'll be, it's not that hard if we can see. We've got to keep growing and not get stuck. Becoming you and me, we will become who we will be if we just hold on and not give up. Becoming who we'll be, it's not that hard if we can see. We gotta keep growing and not get stuck. Becoming you and me, we will become who we will be if we just hold on and not give up. We'll keep becoming, oh, becoming. We'll keep becoming, oh, becoming. To be, not quite what I will be becoming. I'll keep becoming. Said I'm not what I used to be. Not what I used to be. Not quite what I will be becoming. I'll keep becoming. I'm not what I used to be. Not what I used to be. Not quite what I will be becoming. I'll keep becoming. Said I'm not what I used to be. Not what I used to be. That's quite what I will be becoming. I'll keep becoming. I'm not what I used to be. That's what I used to be. That's quite what I will be becoming. I'll keep becoming. Not what I used to be. Not quite what I will be becoming. I'll keep becoming. We must see that there's so much to be. Keep on living through the trials. We will see. We will see that there's so much to be. Keep on living through the trials. We will see. We will see that there's so much to be. Keep on living through the trials. We will see. We'll keep becoming. Yes, you and me will be becoming.
Good, great, wonderful evening to you, and welcome to the Final Five broadcast of the Soul Situations Room right here with me, your host, Reverend Shonda Nicole Gladden. I am so grateful that you have chosen to join with us here on our second night of the Final Five, where we are walking through the last 5 nights of the year, having conversations that touch the soul, the spirit of universal liberation with people and experiences that are near and dear to my heart. Tonight, I am already overwhelmed and filled with emotions because this is a really special night for me. Not that each of the other nights hasn't been special. If you joined us last night, of course, you saw the phenomenal singer-songwriter, G.P. Jackson, who brought us Dear America, A Letter to a Nation, a conversation about art and activism and the role that art plays in activism. But tonight, I may actually cry. I'm going to try not to. Many of you who follow me know that I believe in having thug tears, so I'm trying not to cry. But tonight, we'll be joined by 3 phenomenal people who I have known for more than half of my life, and definitely half of 2 of our guests' lives. And so tonight, we're having conversations about what church and faith formation has meant to youth as well as young adults, and what church meant then and what church means now, and what it means to be a young adult and even an adult who has been formed by experiences and relationships with people who may have been a part of the church and where we find ourselves now. You know, I grew up at a great church outside of Washington, D.C., a church called Reed Temple AME Church. If there's anybody here who's glad to be at Reed Temple, where the Spirit of the Lord is in control, that's a place where my faith was formed, where my experience of growing up first at 6705 Good Luck Road and then moving over to 11400 Glendale Boulevard under the leadership of Reverend Dr. Lee P. Washington as I was growing up, and now with Pastor Mark Whitlock, that's still my home church. And I don't know about you, but home is the place in terms of where my formative years were experienced and how I learned how to navigate this world. I learned it at my home church. I remember Mother Hill and Mother Shackelford and Mother Hart, and I'm going to get in trouble, Mother Stratford, if I start naming all the names. But the mothers of the church would make sure that I was being reared in such a way that they would be proud to say that I was one of their young people. That meant that every now and then, if I got out of line, they didn't have a problem calling me and grabbing a hold of me and saying, now listen, sit yourself down. Let's talk about this. But I don't know about you. If you're watching us tonight and you have experiences, perhaps not at church, but some other institution where you were formed by some meaningful and important adults, you know what it means to be able to say, when I look back over my life and I think things over, I can truly say that I've been blessed and I've got a testimony. Well, tonight we are going to hear the testimonies of 2 phenomenal young adults. One whom I met when I was his pastor in Marion, Indiana, and another whom I met when I was a youth worker here in Maryland. And as a very special bonus to the end of the night, I'm going to bring to the stage one of my mentors, whom to this day, I still put a handle in front of her name, but I want to leave her as a surprise. So grab your favorite young adult, grab your favorite senior or your elder, grab someone you love and sit on down and take a journey with us around this conversation that touches the spirit of universal liberation around where we've been and where we are now. The first person that I want to bring to the stage is a young man by the name of Adrian Howard. Adrian is a native of the city of Marion, Indiana. He spent his childhood being raised by his mother, Felicia Cunningham, in a single-parent home. His mom worked hard for everything that he's been able to enjoy up to this point, he says, and he enjoyed attending school and playing sports year-round because they gave him a time to spend with his peers. the chance to do those things meant a lot since he didn't have brothers or sisters of his own. And, I really want to give Adrian an opportunity to come and to give a little bit more of his story. But what I will say before I bring him to the stage is that for the time that I have known him, and it's probably been almost 8 years at this point, I have known him to be a young man grounded in his faith with a good head on his shoulders, who has always been willing to be an intentional part of his community. So without further ado, I want to bring to the stage Mr. Adrian Howard. Hello, Adrian.
Hey, Pastor Gladden. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we hear you just fine. How are you doing tonight?
Doing well. How are you?
Oh, I can't complain. I'm just so grateful that you said yes and that you're spending a little bit of time with us here in the Soul Situation Room. So I'm curious, go ahead and tell the people. I didn't want to read all of your bio because I felt like some of it would be better to have it come straight from your own words. So tell the people about yourself.
Yeah, for sure. First off, thank you for wanting me to be able to come and speak and also be able to share my testimony. That means a lot. But like you said at the beginning, I grew up, it was just me and my mom. She was always there for me, always made sure that she was able to provide for me and make sure I had the best experience that I could have. She got me involved in sports ever since I was young. I played them all like up until about high school. And between that and going to school, like I just loved being around my friends and being able to have fun with them. So a little bit about how my faith journey began was my grandma, so my mom's mom. She was really big into going to church every week. At the time, I didn't. My mom told me a little bit about who Jesus was, but I didn't have a really strong idea. And so my grandma, she would always like want to invite me on Sundays. And like I'm about 4 or 5 years old at the time. I'm kind of like, I would rather just stay home and watch cartoons, But I just had a hard time, just saying no to my grandma. And so I would go, and even if that meant that like I would go and just color the whole time I was there or even sleep, like I knew it still meant a lot to my grandma that I did go. But something that was really special was whenever I would spend time at her house, she would just call me into the room and say, "Hey, Adrian, let's study." And I would be like, "Okay." And so we would open a passage from the Bible. I remember it being a lot of Old Testament, if I remember right, but we would just go through a story, whether it was Noah or Cain and Abel or Adam and Eve. And from there, I kind of got my base in the Christian faith. Like I became familiar with who characters were in the Bible, and I wasn't so lost, We'll fast forward a few years when I was about in the end of 7th grade. My grandma, she passed away. And so from there, I was about 13 years old, and I was like, wow, like I know for a fact if she was here right now, she would want me to be going to church, doing things to be more active in my faith. And that's actually how I started going to Allen Temple. I just said, hey, like I need to be kind of active in this. And I knew that's where my great grandma went. And probably about 2 months after that was when you began pastoring there. And that's when I met you. I was about 14 years old, been about 8 years.
I was right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, as your pastor at the time, and I've been able to keep in touch with you and follow your journey. Social media is really great for that. I've watched you really mature in your faith in ways that I don't know if we always see it. And if we do, that we may not even always kind of shine a light on it, but in ways that young Black boys don't always seem to embody. Can you talk to the people a little bit about what it has meant to share your faith as a young man of color from Marion, Indiana, all of those pieces, if you don't mind?
Yeah, it meant like so much. Like I can't even tell you where I would be in my life right now if it weren't for what my faith has meant to me. So yeah, Allen Temple is kind of where I got that base. That was the first time that I had began like learning more about faith with people my own age at the youth group that was there. And then from there, like got some experience in other youth groups. And by the time that I had graduated from high school, I had the idea like, hey, like I want to go somewhere that is Christ-centered and Christ-focused. It took me my first year of college to realize that. I went to another school before I went on the one that I eventually graduated from. But I realized, like, hey, Indiana Wesleyan University has all those things and Christ-centered place. And anytime I was around people who went there, like, I could just see something different from the outside looking in. And it was like, hey, I want to be a part of that. And so went ahead and went for it. And as soon as I got there and all the way through the time until I graduated, I've been mentored by teachers and coaches who have been so much more spiritual mentors than anything else to me. And all the while having friends like next to me who their faith journey was just as important as it was to me, if not more important to them. And so through that, like, I was able to have some of the best years of my life in these past 3.5 years, and got to travel around the country in different ways and be able to take in faithful mentorship from other people, and then say, hey, like, I don't want this cycle to end, and see younger guys who were coming into Indiana Wesleyan and find the ways that I can mentor to them. And, you know, being like a young African American, it's like I have the opportunity to not only share my faith, but also like share my culture in a way that some of these guys wouldn't be able to do if like I weren't here, you know? I mean, they might have gotten that later down the road, but like, I'm here right now, you know?
No, thank you for reminding me that I was so rude. I did not say Habari Ghani. I did not remind us that we are in the third day of Kwanzaa and this principle of Ujima, where we're practicing even cooperative work and economics, that we are coming together in this space to see collective works and responsibility. I jumped ahead to Ujama, which is tomorrow, but that this notion of community matters. And not only does it matter for us as individuals, but it matters for us as cultural beings. And so I thank you for sharing that. You know, the Good to the Soul ecosystem, if you will, is one where we really try to lift up all kinds of bodies and all kinds of people. And so I'm curious, Adrian, if you can, I know you went to a Christian university. Have you graduated? You graduated? Can you hear me? Adrian, can you hear me?
Yeah, it just cut out after you asked the question, or before you asked the question.
Okay. Have you graduated?
I just missed like the tail end, like the last 4 words maybe.
Graduation. Have you graduated?
Yeah, about 3 weeks ago.
Okay, congratulations. And so as you think about graduation, as you think about, again, you went to a Christian university, I am curious as to whether or not how you are able to engage with folks who aren't necessarily Christian, who don't necessarily have the same cultural experience as you.
Oh, yeah. So even just the other day, I started working at the hospital, and I was working with a girl who wasn't super religious. Like, she asked, like, we were just asking questions to know each other, and she asked me, "Are you religious?" And I said, "Yeah," and she was like, "Oh, like, I haven't really been super religious in my life. Like, my faith isn't that strong, you know." And she just started like asking me questions, and like, I really didn't take it as an opportunity to try to like force my faith down her throat, but just as an opportunity to answer the questions that she had, and just try to be like an ambassador for the kingdom while I was there. And, like, honestly, in the past couple of weeks, I've gotten antsy because like I want her to ask more questions and figure out more ways I could bring that faith. But, like, I feel like the best thing I can do right now is pray for those opportunities to come and pray to be ready for those opportunities, because I think that the impact that it's going to have on her probably won't be an instant right there in the moment type of thing, but it's probably going to be something where the actions I take right now will have an effect later on down the road. Like, there are opportunities where it does just click right in that moment, but I feel like the majority of things are where you get some influence to somebody, then later on down the road, like, you'll really get to see the fruits of that effort.
No, I deeply appreciate your commentary around the work that you're putting in now, that you'll see the fruits later on down the road. That really inspires me, particularly because I think, or I hope, that the conversation we're having tonight is evidence of that. And so, Adrian, I don't want you to go far, but I want to, at this time, want to bring out another one of our guests. We'll bring you back out for the large conversation, but don't go anywhere, all right?
Mm-hmm.
So, friends, if you're just joining the Soul Situations Room tonight, we're having a conversation of where are we now, where we've been and where we are now, where we're looking at faith formation. We're looking at the experiences that young adults that I have known throughout their lives, and that were youth at the time, where they are now, what it is that their experience of growing up, not only connected to church, if you will, but to the influence, how they have landed in their space of flourishing for the night. And so the next young adult I'm going to bring up is Karen Krieg, who is from Maryland. She grew up both on the Western and Eastern Shores. She attended the University of Maryland Eastern Shore, where she obtained a bachelor's degree in rehabilitation psychology and a master's in rehabilitation counseling. Karen now works in education, but plans to return to mental health. She currently resides on the Eastern Shore of Maryland with her husband, Deacon Scott Krieg, with whom she enjoys ministering to their community through outreach, worship through song, and their prayer ministry. They are soon expecting a baby boy. I did not read that in your bio yet, Karen. So I'm going to bring you out now first so I can just say congratulations. Hi, Karen.
Hi.
You're going to be a mommy.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow. Karen, let's see. How many years has it been since we met?
I would say
it may be 20 years.
Yeah, I would say so because I'm 28 now, and I would definitely say
it's more than 28 years then. It's more than 20 years because you were definitely a younger teenager when we met. Well, tell the people about how we met and what it is that let you say yes, that encourage you to say yes, to get a random message, if you will, to say, hey, can you come and have a conversation with me? Why'd you say yes?
Well, actually, I looked at the message and I didn't respond right away because I was still thinking about it, like, oh gosh, do I have time? And I wanted to make sure that I told you yes if I was really going to be able to give my time and give you like an actual like good conversation on here. But I talked to my mom and she's like, yes, it's Reverend Shonda. Like, you should go on there. And I was like, right. So I messaged you back and then here we are. But just thinking about, man, all the stuff, like just growing up, singing and serving in the young people's department. We went to South Africa together.
Yes, you were part of the first group of young people. I've taken groups of young people to South Africa, but I think you were part of the first group of young people where I wasn't leading. I was a youth worker. But yes, oh my gosh, thank you for that memory, Karen.
Yes. So, but just truly learning, I guess I would say my first memories of you are your ministry through song, just your beautiful voice, how at any given time you are willing to get up and just praise the Lord. You were confident and bold in Christ. You were never, ever shy to use the gift that God gave you to sing. It didn't matter where we were at. You can call on Reverend Shonda and she's going to bust out with a song, okay? And so those are my first memories of you. And next it would just be serving, just your outreach, and especially when we went to South Africa, just how you were with the people there, how you embraced the culture as your own, just really making sure that they understood who Jesus was over there. And even still being that young, and I just knew that I liked helping people, and I knew I liked singing at church, but I really didn't understand the point of ministry, I think, or even giving the gospel and spreading the gospel. I just knew that I liked being there, and it was peaceful and it was fun. But just growing up, I would say even leaving home to come back to the Eastern Shore of Maryland, and going to college, I kind of went through like this self-identity struggle. And I guess just growing up in a church and doing all of that, I didn't go to Christian college like Adrian. It sounds like such a great experience, but I didn't. And I went to an HBCU, and it was very live. Yes, it was very live. Okay.
I went to HBCU as well. I went to Morgan State University. And so I understand live, but I would not give my HBCU experience back for anything. I'm sure Adrian's experience was great, but there's something about HBCUs.
Yes. And but just like even just like getting in, going to parties and stuff like that, which I wasn't invited to much because I didn't do the things that other people did. I didn't drink, I didn't do drugs. And so I kind of always felt like an outsider, like, why am I here? Or, dang, I wish these people could come to church. You know, like, why are you there? Like, but nobody wants to hear about Jesus at a party. So
So I wanna bring Adrian back with this energy right here, because I want to share, when I was the age that you all were, I think when I met you and when you were getting ready to go to college, I too was like that young person, that youth that always wanted to tell people about Jesus. And I remember having my Bible taken from me and thrown out of the school bus window because I had been talking about, I know. I see your face. I had been talking about Jesus so much that people were really just pretty much getting sick of me. But how do you, but clearly we live through it. We are older and wiser and still part of the faith and still part of the relationship with God. How do you create your own kind of cultural circle, your kind of friend network, when there's so many people doing things that are outside of what seems normal and fun for you? Have you done that?
I would say now, definitely, but in the beginning, no. And I would say that's kind of where the identity struggle came in. Just kind of like, okay, I don't fit in, but I still want to go to the party because these are supposed to be my friends. Right, and then even still just doing other things that I wasn't supposed to be doing, like relationship wise or premarital sex and all those kinds of things, like just things that really like put a damper on my spirit. And since I left home, I wasn't really in my word. And so there was a lot of things that I didn't understand. I didn't understand how real spiritual warfare was. And that I just really didn't need half of those people that I was trying to be around because they honestly weren't my friends and we weren't cut from the same type of cloth, so have you. And so I would say after a while, snip, like they had to go. I think learning, like now I started prayer ministry at my church, and I didn't really know like how powerful prayer was either. But I also remember you saying push, pray until something happens. And that was really awesome because it came back to me when it's time for me to start the prayer ministry here. but just not even realizing how powerful prayer was and how difficult it can be, because are you really sure that you even want to experience the things that you're praying for? Things like patience and but the biggest prayer was for me to ask for God to remove anyone that wasn't for me or any negativity. And all my friends started dropping like flies, and that's when I really felt like lonely, like, okay, what am I supposed to be doing? Because now I'm not going to the parties and I don't have the friends that I have, and I'm not driving back across the Bay Bridge to Baltimore or DC to hang out on the weekends. Like, what am I supposed to be doing?
Yeah, so there's some questions that are coming through, and I hope if you are joining us on YouTube or Facebook that you will give your questions in the comments. But Deborah Hawkins says, what does it feel like to be driven by faith? And I would give a caveat, or even to say, especially as a younger person or as a young adult.
It's scary sometimes, because sometimes
Definitely.
it's like, yeah, because sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, like if I don't do what seems like against my faith right now, like I'm gonna like fall behind socially, you know, economically and such. But you just gotta trust, like it's gonna be something that you can't see. Like that's what faith is, believing in something that you can't necessarily see at the end of the tunnel. And based on past experiences where that faith has brought me to a bright light at the end of the tunnel, and you know what I've read biblically to come at the end of that tunnel, that's the strength inside of me, like the Holy Spirit, that helps me to be driven by faith.
Yeah, and the additional question is, particularly in the midst of Black Lives Matter. I think you both self-identify as Black. You can say yes or no, okay. But what does it mean to be driven by faith in the midst of Black Lives Matter as a movement, as an ideology?
I think that, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think that if you look at media, this movement has such a negative connotation sometimes, where it's just rioting or people that are just angry. And I think people don't realize that we, as a Black people in whole, are actually hurting. And this is something that is not new. Even as the Bible says, there's nothing new under the sun. And so this is something that we've been going through for a very long time. And I think that it's kind of like it's time for you to wake up, America. This is what needs to happen. And honestly, I posted a couple of things where, you know, you just include hashtags just to get people to like your post. And being in psychology, that doesn't bother me, because I don't mind addressing the elephant in the room. But boy, were some people mad at me to see All Lives Matter or All Lives Matter to Jesus Christ and my hashtags. And it wasn't by any means disrespect, or I think even so more that the fact that I married someone who's not Black, I think people even felt like, okay, she needs to prove her Blackness during this time. And I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, how do you lose your Blackness? Like, how do you lose your culture, you know? And I just felt like I had to prove that I was still Black, but I still love the Lord at the same time. And it was very difficult because, yes, you see on one side of things, even going to a church that is very diverse and having to explain some things to people there. But yes, racial injustice is a sin issue, and God doesn't like it, but it's still very much a real thing that is going on. And there is a huge ignorance. Like, it's just shocking to me, the things that people still believe are okay, or stereotypes that they believe surrounding Black people. and just, I guess people say, misrepresentation of us in media and those kinds of things, and that we're not unified unless it's in church, and that's not true at all. And yeah.
So I want to give you a final question to think about when I'm going to put you backstage for just a moment. So while you're back there, though, the question I try to ask all of my guests is, how do you define flourishing? So I'm going to give you time to think about that, because where you both landed and the conversation that we're having has reminded me that I had the experience with an older woman that you all have had with me, and that is having a mentor, an informal mentor, having someone who can give words that they may not know are wise at the time, but that I can remember, like you remembered, Push, when it comes down to a crunch. So I'm going to put you backstage, and before the end of the night, you're going to come back and let us know how you define flourishing, okay? All right. So, friends, I hope you're enjoying the conversation. As I said from the beginning, this is where we started and where we are now. Conversations that touch the spirit of universal liberation, particularly with people who have had their faith formed through formalized ministry, through informal mentoring relationships. You've heard from Adrian, you've heard from Karen and their relationship with me. But what you haven't heard is the beginning of how I was able to be poured into, to be able to have anything to share with others. And I want to credit a lot of my formation as a young adult, as a youth worker, to the next person that I'm going to bring out. And that is someone who, when she comes out, we'll talk about the story of how we got to know. But this person is one of gospel music's most exceptional, multifaceted talents. She's gifted as a recording artist, a songwriter, a musician, a producer, a minister of music, and worship leader. She's been called to deliver praise and worship with a non-traditional twist. Known for her smooth sound and fresh, eclectic style, she has an arresting energy and uncompromising message. She's performed with LaShawn Pace, Micah Stampley, and Ernest Pugh. She's opened for Beverly Crawford and John P. Key. She's performed at the Verizon Center and Showplace Arena, Blues Alley, the renowned Country Club. She's appeared on the Word Network, the Bobby Jones Show, Fox 5 News, and several Comcast broadcasts. She's recorded and arranged background vocals for numerous artists, and her original music has been recorded by national recording artists such as Stellar Award winner Philip Carter and The Sounds of Victory, Robert E. Person, the Gospel Music Workshop of America, Bowie State University Gospel Choir, Grammy-nominated jazz artist Phase 2, and many, many others. Friends, I could say so much more, but what I will say right now is that this is, to me, Miss Kendall King. Y'all give it up for my mentor. Hey, Miss Kendall.
Hi, sweetie. Oh, I'm so excited.
I'm excited to have you. Thank you for saying yes.
Absolutely. Yes.
So, if I told the story of Karen, I used to pick her up from church and take her, drive her home. But that's what you used to do for me. I would get dropped off at the church or just be randomly walking to the church and end up in your car, and you would drive me home, drive me to get food, drive wherever. We would just go. Yes, and those were some of the most formative experiences of my entire life. Wow, who would have thought?
I bless God for you, and just to see your journey. I'm just so proud of you. And I mean, I'm not surprised, because I knew it was there all along, and every accomplishment and everything, every level higher, I just bless God for it. But I expected it, and I saw it from the beginning.
Now, see, Miss Kendall, don't get me crying on here. But when you say I saw it from the very beginning, because I feel that way looking at Adrian and looking at Karen, and I don't know what it is that clicked for you that said, let me just watch out for this little child. Because as Adrian said, like Adrian, I was a child of a single parented household, though my dad was in the picture. I grew up in a village of places with my mom, with my grandma, with aunts and uncle, but what was it that made you think I'm going to be a part of this young person's life?
It really was a natural progression. It wasn't like something just clicked. It just, when we met, we just clicked, and I think we just there was a connection there, and I just, it wasn't even really intentional. I just was led by God to do what I did, and I just, to me, when I understand what it is, it's really interesting listening to them talk about being young Christians and having friends and that whole conflict with friends that are Christians and non-Christians, because, like I say, when I was 7, so really my whole life, I've kind of been like the oddball, and God put people around me. God will send people to you that are like-minded and that will help you to kind of navigate through this whole Christian life. And so that's really the way it was with me. And, first of all, you could sing. So I knew, I was like, God, God was like, you need her to help you. And you were always there with me. You traveled with me. You at my house. We were in the studio. I mean, whatever I needed you to do, you were always there, and those times were just so special to me, so.
Miss Kendall, they were special to me too. I mean, I can remember some of my most fond memories of not even doing anything, but just being with you, just being in your apartment, and just being present with each other. Now,
Yes.
I don't know if that still happens in 2020. Of course, it doesn't happen in a pandemic right now.
Right.
But for adults who are believers and who may not have children, what kind of advice might you give to say if they're in ministry, but they're not, because you were never formally a youth minister.
Yeah.
You didn't even have a title of youth worker. I don't even know if you even fooled with the other children.
No, I didn't. I didn't.
But how can you, what advice might you give to young adults who may find themselves in a position like this to walk alongside other young people like this?
Well, I think the most important thing that I find, people want to know that they're appreciated and that somebody's listening and that somebody cares. And one of the most important things to me is to be a good listener and to be able to meet people where they are, to not be judgmental, and to be able to allow people to have a free space. I always, we used to talk about everything. And I wanted, it was important to me that you knew that whatever you said to me stayed with me, and there would be no judgment. There was just complete understanding, because I understood, how it was. And so I just think that we just need to be open, and just be perceptive, and allow the Holy Spirit to speak to you. God will lead you to people that you need to really connect with, and just be open, have an open ear. Don't talk, listen, and allow people to be themselves.
Yeah, so I think that is really important. And well, I know I experience it as it being really important to just have those safe spaces where I don't think there was ever a topic that was ever off limits.
No.
And like you said, you did not judge me. I want to bring Karen and Adrian back on the stage for a little bit, though, to talk about what does that mean to have an adult that you can trust and know that you're going to be safe in their presence. We see sometimes there are predators that
Yes.
you talk about discernment. Even my family to know that there was not going to be anything that would be harmful to me around you. This was in the days before we had to have mandatory background checks,
Right.
before the days of, doing the work that is so instrumental now, because we know that there are organizations, longstanding organizations, where children have been taken advantage of. But you talk about discernment, and I want to talk to Karen and Adrian and you about what does that even look like around discerning how to choose a mentor, to choose someone that you want to be in community with, but also that trust factor of being able to say, I can talk to this person about anything. Because I think, Karen, do you have that experience with me?
Definitely. I just remember even being able to get my first lipstick with you. So that was
We got the good stuff. We went to the MAC store, didn't we?
Wow.
So that was a very special moment. And I would also say that I guess it's not until you go through some things that you don't realize how important somebody is to you. And even when I talked about the struggle in college, trying to figure out who I was and where I fit in, and then ultimately discovering that my identity is in Jesus Christ and not in the world. But just going back and seeing the small things that he had laid out for me, whereas this is what a woman in Christ is supposed to look like by people like you being there. And I don't have to look at the world to try to conform to what they say or try to fit into expectations of these little boys out here. Whereas I can still put on my dress and look good in my pearls like you do right now. Okay. And just even more so with the question that was asked about still, how is your faith driven? Things like push that you told me, praying until something happened, staying in your Bible, even when you can't get to your Bible or you feel too down. Go ahead and having praise and worship with just yourself and Jesus and bringing yourself up out of that sadness or the funk that you're in. Just things like that. And just being bold enough to go out and to minister and to sing on the spot, just like Miss Shonda was. I think those things definitely come back to you when you feel like you don't know who you are, or like I was saying, in this day and time, because I married somebody who wasn't Black, that I'm not Black enough, or because I don't go to the AME church anymore, that I don't have my Black culture in church anymore. And those things are not true. That is who I am. That's what God surrounded me with. And more so, that's my foundation. And those things were solid and they'll never crumble. And I'm just grateful for that.
Yeah. So, Adrian, I think this question was directed to you. Is formal ministry in your future? But either of you can answer.
Personally, I believe like I can minister at any point in my life where I go to. I don't see myself like pastoring a church in the future, but like even if I continue the route that I'm on, business and whatever organization I'm in, I think that that's an opportunity, to be an ambassador for Christ wherever I go, whether that's to strengthen like a culture that's already centered in that focus, or just be a light somewhere where it's not already focused.
Yeah. So, we're almost at the end of our hour. It went by really, really quickly. But the question that I asked all of my guests, and GP, I forgot to ask you yesterday, so I'm going to have to bring you back to make sure that we get the question asked, though. But Good to the Soul is about good to the spirit of universal living and liberations, especially as we talk about the reality that human flourishing is so important to liberation and to how we are good. How do you define flourishing in 60 seconds? If you can define flourishing for the people and what it has meant to you for how you see yourself now. Go ahead, Adrian. I saw your lips form like you wanted to start.
Yeah. So like I said, the first school I was at, the reason it wasn't a good fit was because I felt really static. I felt like academically things were going well, athletically things were going well, but spiritually I didn't feel growth. I just felt really static. So when I got to IWU, I had the chance, to be surrounded by a brotherhood that I could be open and honest with things concerning faith. Ms. Kendall said earlier, like, hit the nail on the head with just being there to listen to someone and still accept them through like the hardships that they're going through meant a lot when I got there. And so between those groups of brothers who were on my team and then having coaches and mentors who I could be open with struggles going on, like, it just meant so much. And I definitely felt a lot of growth through it and wanted to be able to be that for someone else who may be going through that as well.
All right, Karen. So before I'm going to reiterate what I heard you say. You define flourishing as, Adrian, is having community, that you flourish when you are surrounded by community, particularly for you, a community of brothers. Okay. Karen, how do you define flourishing?
Flourishing for me is growth. It's healing. It's kind of like your theme song, Becoming. Yeah. So, and then sometimes, especially with God, the beautiful thing is about him is that he'll constantly show you areas that you need to heal or you need to grow in. And I think that's important, especially because what you showed me, that it's good that you don't stay the same. It's good that you are constantly, becoming the best that God has for you to be. And that's good, because I don't want to be the same person that I was yesterday or a little bit, I guess, a long ago, even though, we're young, so we don't really have much of a long ago. But
keep on living, baby. Keep on living.
Right. Right. But still, like, I don't want to be who I was before Christ. And yeah, that's what flourishing means to me. Just growth and healing.
I love it. Flourishing as growth and healing. Now, Miss Kendall, how do you define flourishing?
To me, flourishing is realizing who you are and being an individual and not measuring yourself in terms of what other people expect or what you think, what you see. It's just being comfortable in your own skin and trusting God that the plan that he has for you, that he's working it out, and to be content. The word tells us that we should be content in whatever situation that we're in. And so, to me, that's what flourishing means. Just loving yourself and the flaws, the good things, the bad things, whatever it is, and not try to copy anybody else, and just be uniquely you. And and just loving who you are and who God made you. And if you do that, then you will always flourish. You will always know that God has your back and that he wants the best for you. He wants the best for all of us. And that might not be the same for me as it is for you or your neighbor or your friend, So that to me is what flourishing means.
Now, I have thoroughly enjoyed all three of you and your articulation of what flourishing looks like and what it means. And I just believe that the time we've spent together tonight has contributed to my flourishing, that you all have reminded me that the God we serve is a God of diversity, is a God of constant change, is a God of community. is a God that can pour into us from even the most unlikely of places. So I want to thank all three of you for saying yes. Now, Miss Kendall, I know I gave a glowing read of your bio that talked a lot about your music. And tonight we have not had an opportunity to hear your music, to hear your beautiful voice. And so I want to make sure I throw up this link so people go listen to her music. And if she will say yes, one of these days on our future Soul Situation show, we're going to have a show just for Miss Kendall's music, because do you have a new project out?
Yes,
I
do.
know. It's so great. But I really would love to at some point be able to spotlight your music so that others can hear and know the great things that God is doing through you. I wish I was still living in Maryland so I could still be singing with you, but that's another story for another day.
I know.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for your project too.
What? All I have is a single, and that's what opens the show is my single. And so you just keep praying. We'll see what God says, because I have a bunch of songs written, but they just not out there yet. So, friends, we are almost at the end of our time. I'm going to say farewell to the three of you. I'll meet you backstage after the broadcast, but thank you for being here with us. I want to go ahead and let y'all know that I have loved the time that we've spent together. Your comments, they help fuel the conversation. The ways that you continue to follow this ministry, this social enterprise called Good to the Soul. And so tonight we have been in our second night of the final five, the last 5 days of the year, as we're talking about how are we spending the last 5 days and how are we moving into 2021 with intention. So I do hope that you will meet me right back here at the same place that you joined on tonight, 8:15 tomorrow night. Tomorrow night at 8:15, we will be joined in the Soul Situation Room with my staff. Good to the Soul is a social enterprise that it energizes individuals and institutions to flourish. Well, you've heard what three people tonight said flourishing looks like, but the staff of Good to the Soul, known as the Soul Stirrers, will be part of the conversation tomorrow night, where we will be talking all things social enterprise, all things congregational growth, all things institutional development. And we'll talk about how we make this social enterprise work, that perhaps you or someone you know may want to partner with us or to invest in the company, because we are a social enterprise. And what does that even look like? What does that mean? And then on Wednesday night, we'll be having a conversation about when daddy's girls grow up, a conversation with dads of daughters. And if you all reach out to David Gladden on the internet, maybe, just maybe, we'll be able to convince him to be my guest. But it hasn't worked so far. So if you know my daddy, y'all text him, y'all call him and say, come on, Nikki's show. And then we will close out the week, close out the year with a conversation about getting your soul right with Inside Out Loving You. CEO and founder Deborah Hawkins Wright, none other than my mom. We're going to have a good girlfriend conversation about what does it mean to end the year and end the year with intention, where we are loving ourselves. And as we pour out of that love of ourselves, we can love on others in a way that is indeed good to the soul. So I thank you. You've joined us tonight, and I couldn't be more glad and more grateful. Last night, people asked, could we put the Cash App up? And you all invested. So thank you. I won't put the Cash App up tonight, but I will say that if you were so compelled and so drawn to support the ministry, to support the effort, you can definitely find us, Good to the Soul, all of the ways, www.goodtothesoul, where you can partner with us, you can support, you can be part of the journey. Because in the new year, don't think we're going to quit. We have a lot more programming, a lot more opportunity for you to be connected to this work and to this ministry. Before tonight, I want to thank you, and I will see you tomorrow night at 8:15. If you are on the Clubhouse app, I may have another conversation and the after party, depending upon how much longer my little weepy eyes can stay awake. But otherwise, I'll see you right back here tomorrow night at 8:15, right here for the Soul Situations Room. Until then, make sure you are doing good to yourself and you are doing all things that are good to the soul. Love you. Take care. And I will see you tomorrow night.